Peacemaking Principles, Unit 5, Lesson 4. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conflict Resolution and Peacemaking, the class that teaches you how to manage interpersonal conflict and drama for yourself and others. I'm your instructor, David Lowry. Today's conflict resolution tip is this. If you feel triggered or inwardly angry about something someone is saying or doing, create a pause in your mind by stating, "Tell me more." Once the person has finished, ask, "Is there anything else you think I should know?" Once you have all the information, you will better understand the problem as you begin the peacemaking process. In our last podcast, we discussed the concept of relational dialectics. As it relates to no-win situations, it describes how people expect consistent and predictable behaviors for people who, at best, can only behave in a dialectical range. What may appear as inconsistent behavior by one person may appear consistent by the other. For instance, even though we feel a need to be with other people, there are times when we will feel that need less strongly. In today's podcast, we will present some peacemaking principles that help us as we encounter these no-win situations. These will include some approaches by Stephen Covey and ideas based on earlier lessons in this unit. In this course, we favor relational approaches for resolving conflicts. There are pragmatic reasons for doing so. In many cases, individuals will continue to live and work with one another, and there are better strategies than manipulating a process for building trust or long-term relationships. Therefore, we encourage solutions that maximize beneficial solutions for all concerned. Stephen Covey's Success Paradigms. Noted professor Stephen R. Covey wrote a book entitled The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This book continues to be revised and has sold more than 25 million copies. Habit number 4, Think Win-Win, describes several ways people may work and deal with one another. We will quickly review them. The win-only scenario. Sometimes when people want something badly, winning becomes their only concern. Their prevailing attitude is that every person should look after their needs and not overly concern themselves about whether others gain or lose something in a transaction. For instance, long ago, when I purchased my first car, a pre-owned car, there were a few protection laws. Sadly, the motor in the car I bought was defective and had to be rebuilt in less than a month. Though it was a significant expense, the position of the car dealership was, we all made a deal, and now the car was my responsibility. The phrase, "It's not personal, it's business," describes these transactions. Then there's the win-lose scenario. In this approach, there are clear winners and losers. People who consistently use the win-lose scenario view life as though it were an athletic contest. There may be times when this approach is entirely appropriate, such as when only one person can win a coveted position at work, or a client intends to give their business to one firm. At other times, this approach is less than helpful. This is especially so if one or more competitors practice the all is fair in love and war approach. In situations like this, competitors are often tempted to use underhanded means to achieve what they want, setting the stage for long-lasting interpersonal conflicts. Even worse, if a competitor is vengeful, they may not only enjoy winning, but also the process of defeating, humiliating, or destroying their competitors to serve as a warning for those who might cross them in the future. The lose-lose scenario. Covey calls this a no-win scenario. In this situation, all apparent outcomes produce no noticeable positive gains for either side. The participant's attitude goes like this: if I can't win, I'll see to it that you can't either. Regrettably, this approach is all too common in politics, divorce proceedings, business takeovers, and the like. Were the fallout in scenarios like this limited only to the participants, it would be bad enough. However, the approach often produces collateral damage and harms innocent people caught in the crossfire. For instance, in bitter custody cases, divorcing couples may harm their children. The lose-win scenario. Even though there are winners and losers in this scenario, this approach is not always dysfunctional, especially if the philosophy is short-term pain for long-term gain. Sometimes people need to cut their losses before they can move on. For instance, a person may be upside down in a house where they owe more than the home is worth. Rather than continuing a difficult financial situation, the owner may sell the house at a loss, hoping for a new start. Sometimes, when a participant is conflict adverse, they produce a flight strategy and give their opponents whatever they want. For instance, in a divorce situation, one partner may say, just give them whatever they want. I'm not going to fight. While this may appear noble, it is often little more than a cover of conflict avoidance. It's usually not a good strategy to adopt. If for no other reason, then it encourages others to take advantage of you. The win-win scenario. Most of the strategies listed have severe dysfunctional elements. Covey's win-win method of dealing with people is the preferred peacemaker approach. The underlying message of this scenario is we do not have a deal until both of us win. Wins may be small or large, and they're often in the eye of the beholder. That is, success may not always be obvious or apparent to others. Even though we say this is the preferred strategy for peacemakers, it's not always an option. As mentioned above, sometimes only one person can win a coveted job. However, participants can still treat the process fairly and respectfully, even in situations like these. Peacemaking Principles. Now that we've discussed a variety of no-win situations and given reasons for their occurrence, let's talk about some specific things that are helpful to peacemakers based on the lessons in this unit. Ask, is this an actual no-win situation? Sometimes people believe their conflict cannot be resolved because they have tried and failed. The ability to resolve problems is like other skills. It must be practiced and developed over time. When one method doesn't work, try another. The important thing is to not give up. As a peacemaker, be aware that you can help facilitate new approaches to improving things among your friends, families, and other people you meet. Don't overly generalize about the benefits of compromise. The ability to compromise is one of many peacemaking tools. However, there are better ones. It's important to realize that some problems resist easy compromise. Know when it's appropriate and when it isn't. Paired binds are a fact of life. Sooner or later, relationships experience a paired bind. When this happens, it's important to realize that the bind doesn't mean that someone is trying to be complicated or get their way. Instead, they cannot let go because each alternative protects a substantial value or need. The work is to explore these deep feelings, needs, and beliefs. Deeper bonds in relationships can happen the moments others express their innermost needs. Never underestimate the power of mutual understanding. While it is true that some problems resist an easy solution, this does not mean we should give up and remain at odds with one another. If we are willing to try and listen with an understanding heart, we can develop a more profound and meaningful relationship. Understanding others, as well as being understood, is often more important than getting one's ways. Always look for potential win-win scenarios. Don't become so entangled in a conflict that you forget to explore alternative solutions that might be just as satisfying as the one you've been advocating. Recently, the windshield of my new car shattered. I was discouraged when I learned that it wasn't covered in the extended warranty I'd purchased. I was disappointed because I believed I had this coverage. In negotiations, the dealership agreed that if I paid the insurance deductible for a replacement windshield, they would recalibrate all my windshield electronics at no charge. The lesson here is that even if you don't get exactly what you want, people are frequently willing to work with you in finding an agreeable solution. In this case, they did not legally have to do anything. Win-win solutions build strong relationships. Expect contradictions and inconsistencies in others. As our study of dialectics show, people behave inconsistently and aren't aware of it. As we locate these inconsistencies in ourselves and others, we should determine whether they are of a push-pull dynamic or some form of logical inconsistency. In this unit, we discuss the notion of no-win solutions. We note that many conflicts people think can't be solved are less problematic when we keep trying alternative solutions. Even so, some problems such as double and paired binds are more challenging to resolve. In these cases, peacemakers can help to unravel the situation by encouraging participants to identify binds, resolve conflicting demands, remove punishments, and do their best to listen deeply to the needs and concerns of others. We noted that building an understanding between people is frequently more important than receiving a tangible result. We also discussed the role of dialectics, the inconsistencies, contradictions, polarities, and opposites that drive human thinking and behavior. Finally, we discussed the importance of relational approaches to problem solving, including Stephen Covey's win win or no deal approach. Understanding these processes dramatically increases the depth of knowledge peacemakers have to help people in their time of need. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. We encourage you to download a copy of this program's transcript so that you might better complete a short quiz over today's presentation.